Let's now bring in veteran journalist Dan Rather, joining on the phone from New York. Dan, we appreciate your time today. During your extensive career, you covered Senator John McCain a great deal. How do you remember him?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for, I'm grateful for being on the air with you. Well, I remember John McCain over so many years. I think I first met him sometime in the 1970s. But the thing about John McCain was, he'd be the first to say he wasn't perfect, which is to say he was human. But he always valued service to country above anything else. He considered himself a loyal Republican, but as a U.S. senator and before that representative, he prided himself on, I guess you say, his iconoclasm, that he was his own man, did his own thinking. He was loyal to the party when he felt he could be, and that was an overwhelming amount of the time. When he felt he couldn't be, he made it clear, he spoke up. There wasn't anything, no peeping and hiding with John McCain. That what we have here, we as a country, we've lost one of our iconic political leaders with the passing of John McCain. He was a brave man, as evidenced by his experience during the Vietnam War, a hero by any reasonable analysis of that term, a public servant. He was a warrior, a public servant. He was exactly the kind of person that everybody hopes is in the U.S. Congress, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or something in between or outside. He's exactly the kind of person that you always hope will be representing us in Washington. I knew John. I knew him well enough to admire many of his qualities from up close, having covered him over the years. But I'm not saying well enough to call him an actual friend. He had many close friends, and I mourn for him and his family, of course.
Dan, you put forward a statement. I want to read part of it. In part, you say McCain was controversial and far from perfect. In short, you say he was human, but at best, he was frequent. He echoed the highest traditions and ideals of American democracy. He voted his conscience. He spoke out fiercely against the current regime. It does speak, as you're mentioning here, to the polarity right now. It seems that there's not really much room for middle ground. But again, when you see John McCain, Dan, this is a man who did reach across the aisle. It is a man who stood for bipartisanship.
Well, and that's the point. When I said he always put country first. He was loyal to his party, as I say, when he could be. But he was never one of those people whose first consideration was, how's this going to affect me? How's it going to affect my political future? And furthermore, he was never one who said, well, I need to do what the party wants me to do or what the party's line is. It was always country first with him. And, we speak a lot often offhandedly about honor and integrity. And John McCain had this deep within himself. And part of that was always reflected. He was always thinking country first. And when we look around today, finding people in public service, in elected public office who take that view of the first priority is the country, well, the best you can say is we better hope we get more John McCains.
Veteran journalist Dan Rather on the phone with us live from New York. Dan, we appreciate your time and your perspective, your remembrance of the U.S. Senator John McCain. Thank you.
Thank you very much.